When I was a younger leader, I would have been like, oh, I can't do that. I just need to like work. And that's all I need to do. And I'm not going to be able to go away now. And I'm not going to be able to have those things. But going through seasons of helping leaders get intentional, when I got intentional, it was like, no, it's not what exists. It's what I choose. And it takes time. It took me 10 years.
When my mom was very sick, it became very clear to me that, what am I working all of these hours for? What actually matters?
You've got to walk the walk, and it's got to be legitimate, right? Like, you've got to do that. If you haven't lived it, how the heck are you going to bring it?
Like, it's not sexy. You actually have to work. Like, you have to put in the hours. You have to make sacrifices. Life can look a lot different if you make certain changes and then actually taking that jump, taking a really hard look in the mirror, like, is this the life that I want?
That was the game changer for me. I got to a point where I had everything I wanted except freedom, and I couldn't. So I had to rebuild differently.
Kathleen, you talk constantly about work-life balance and that it actually doesn't exist, which I think is like very interesting for entrepreneurs because, work-life balance is one of those buzzwords that we hear all over the place and people are continually chasing it. Mm-hmm. And so it's something that stuck with me that you said over and over again, that there is no such thing as balance, but there is harmony. And so tell me a little bit about what that means.
Yeah, I think, we have this idea that you can live your life perfectly, like personal life versus business life. It doesn't make sense for entrepreneurs, and it doesn't make sense for people in lifestyle careers, right? People in sales. And I think some people could take that the wrong way and say, what, I'm supposed to work 24/7, right? Because our phones are like pinging. I mean, I've had literally like 200 emails already this morning before we've started, but
I noticed.
Yeah. A little distracting. So there's so much going on, let alone social media and all this stuff. But the reality is, as leaders, we have so much value when we figure out who we are. And I think we hear that all the time, but there's a very small percentage of people who have leaned in to be so introspective to figure out who they are. And sometimes we don't maybe want to know, right? We don't want to know why we're driven, or we think it's for the wrong reasons. But the reality is, when you know who you are, you can be discerning. And discerning is what I say yes to and what I say no to. So if I was watching this and saying, okay, like, I have no work-life balance, but I really want it, like, maybe I'm burnt out, I want more peace. Okay, what do I truly value? Where do I feel fulfilled? Where are those values in place? Then let's build a harmony where I'm giving time to those values. But the myth is that they're going to be perfectly balanced. Like, a lot of entrepreneurs are all or nothing, right? Like, I love to build. I love to do that. So, and I've been working with you to get an on season and an off season, right? So an off season is where you're totally off. You're on an adventure. You're doing something else. And then when I'm on my on season, I'm in it. I'm working. I'm doing it, but it's within my values. It's like gym, it's family, it's career, it's travel, right? But when I'm off, like, we're in a mountain, we're gone.
Yeah, I agree with you that we have off seasons, but I think anybody watching this would be sitting at home and thinking, oh, okay, well, when they're away, they're fully disconnected. And I think it's, that would be a lie, because even when we're climbing a mountain, okay, we don't have any reception, but if we did, we would still be checking. And I think in an age where we're so connected, how can you strike that harmony, and how can you truly get that balance, and how do you truly disconnect when, as entrepreneurs, our babies are our businesses, and it's so difficult to let go entirely, even when you have that leverage.
But I hear that. And I think, respectfully, I'm more disconnected when we're away than you.
Do you think so?
I do. Particularly on the mountain. I think I'm more, no, I know this to be true, but that's okay. Because you have to make a decision, right? Like, I think I've been through loss, you've been through loss. And my father died at 41, right? People watching this have been through loss. And I always say, like, it was such a privilege not to lose my father, of course, but to go through adversity, to go through those lessons. Because for me, I came to a point in my career where I had many years now been a multi or 7-figure earner as a company. Like we're doing well. And I started to look at it, and I went through the seasons that a lot of the leaders I work with go through, where all of a sudden I'm like, wait a minute, like it was a dream to have a 7-figure company. Like I gave up so much. Like I had 2 kids. Like we joke about, like, my basement was flooding. I went to work. I was like, oh no, like, no, there's no staying back. Like I literally left. Like there were times my kids are sick. I'm like, I'll be there in 2 hours. Like I'm a single parent. I'm doing something. So there was a certain for work. So there was a certain point where I looked at it and I said, okay, the season has shifted. I worked so hard to create something, and then I didn't have the peace or joy to enjoy it. And I made a very intentional decision, and the decision parts the seas. I was like, hell no. I worked this long to create freedom, and I'm not willing to live this way anymore unless I can leave for like 5 to 6 weeks twice a year. Sometimes I do it once a year. Sometimes it's like for 4 months at the holidays in January. But that was really powerful. And that's when I did my first Live While You're Alive tour, right? In honor of my dad. And I went and I did the Camino. I did other things. And then I realized life didn't stop. And I built better systems so I could be away. But you have to it took me 10 years to be able to do that. But it was very intentional to build that freedom.
Yeah. And I think I understand that to some degree. And like what you were saying about losing your dad, when my mom was very sick, it became very clear to me that, what am I working all of these hours for? What actually matters? And like this time with family and your values kind of shift, and it gives you a different perspective on why you're grinding like this. And when your values are out of alignment, or I think just at the end of the day, struggling to see why you're doing all of this. You're like in this hamster wheel, and you just, wake up the next day, and you have this idea of like when you start your own business as an entrepreneur that you're building the life of your dreams and all of this freedom, and now you get to set your own schedule. And I think it's a very harsh awakening when you realize, no, now you actually have less freedom. You are tied to your phone 24 hours a day. You're missing, to your point, like you're missing birthdays and all of these special occasions because you're a prisoner to this business that was supposed to give you this freedom. And I think meeting you at the time that I did, and it was, after suffering that loss, and it really shook everything up in my world, and realized, okay, you know what, there are things that are more important than me working 24 hours a day and wearing this like a badge of honor. It's great to make all this money, but like at the end of the day, you're not taking it with you, right? And so what experiences are we creating with the people that we love? Because those are the things that matter most. And so thank God, I had this shift in perspective prior to meeting you, because essentially you mandate that our life looks like
we're still working on it.
We're working on it. Yeah. You're better than me, but that there are these periods of on season and off season.
Yeah. There was a bit of bait and switch with this, right? A little bit. Because when we were because when we were first dating, it was like, I take weekends off. I don't really work in the evening. Of course, I took this literally. I'm like, perfect. I go to the cottage. Great. And then we went to Istanbul and Africa and Amsterdam. We were away for a month, and you were like away and you're on. I was like, great. So when we got back into our business building and you were working on it, I was like, whoa, like adjust, because
let's pump the brakes.
No. This wasn't
back to 7 days a week, back to 15 hours. But I think 15-hour days.
And I think as an entrepreneur, again, it's the intentionality. Like I made decisions. By the time my kids go to university, I could work anywhere in the world, right? Like I built an apartment in my basement, an apartment in the third. So I leveraged out my house. So I could I don't need to be here. I don't have to have overhead. So I think it's...
Life had other plans for you.
Yeah, life had other plans for me. But I think it's how do you get there? You make decisions. And I think, I've been reflecting a lot, because even in my business, right? Like sometimes we have the wrong people around us. And when you're away and you have the wrong people, right? Like running the roost, like you've got major issues. And I think as an entrepreneur, like some people may say, oh, Kathleen went away so much, but she had people stealing from her business, doing this, that, and the other. But the reality was the business had evolved, and I needed a different caliber of people around me. But why I'm sharing this is, we're how many months later? 6 to 8 months later, rebuilt almost the entire team, right? I'm about to leave for 5 months and we had our best first quarter ever. And there's
5 months? This is a bait and switch. I thought we were leaving for 5 weeks.
5 weeks.
Okay.
But the reason I'm sharing this is like, I kind of was hard on myself. Like, oh, you're supposed to be building this freedom. And then I was like, you just built a whole new team. We're going away for 5 weeks. We're on a growth, like massive growth trajectory. And I'm sharing this because when I was a younger leader, I would have been like, oh, I can't do that. I just need to like work. And that's all I need to do. And I'm not going to be able to go away now. And I'm not going to be able to have those things. But going through seasons of helping leaders get intentional, when I got intentional, it was like, no, it's not what exists. It's what I choose. And it takes time. It took me 10 years, but you build differently when you choose it. And I think there are different seasons. Like my second book was Relentless to Rise. And I joke now I'm relentless to rest, right? Like there's a value in that. And I think it's interesting because, like some of the research for this, like 2023 Deloitte's, how do I say that? Deloitte, perfect. But 60% of millennials and Gen Z prioritize work-life balance over career advancement. And I think it's interesting because I think some leaders get frustrated with the younger generation.
I do myself, even on my own team. Like I see the shift and I have like one of my sales partners and I look at him and he's like, he has very clear boundaries on what his values are, what's important to him, what he's going to be showing up for. And I think when I got started in the industry, if somebody asked me to do something, I was just there, right? Or I was putting in these 20-hour days and it's not that he refuses to, or maybe he does, but he does it because he has clear boundaries on what's important to him, where his values lie, where his time needs to go. And that work-life balance is something that his entire like friend group generation, like they all share that. And I look to them and oftentimes like as a business owner, I'm pissed off about it. I'm like, is it laziness? No, it's actually amazing. And there's a part of me, and I think why I get upset with it sometimes is because I project, because that's something that I wish I had, or something that was ingrained in me, or something that I had learned from a younger age.
Well, and I contemplate which is better, but the reality is, end of the day, like there are seasons. So if you're in the season of building, right, like it is not easy to be a business owner, right? Like what is it? It's extremely, I don't have it here, but it's an extremely small percentage of businesses that end up at the 10-year. Like I can't remember if it was less than 10% or less than 1%. Like as a woman to get to a 7-figure business, it's the stats are not strong, right? Like it's really limited. And I think it's hard because the perception is like the boundaries are important, but the reality is you have to build what you want into existence. And that means you have to show up and you have to find your flow and you have to put it all in there and then carve it out. So you need those boundaries, and I respect them too. But I think sometimes that generation is trying to have a reality that's up here that they need to build into place, but their boundaries are so rigid that they're not able to get there. Like you have to do the work to build it. And I've seen in my own company the last year, like in crazy entitlement, right? And it's like, I slept with a laptop. I woke up with my laptop falling on the ground, and I'll sound on my high horse. And so will every entrepreneur, though, because to build something that can contribute at a higher level, you are leaning in. Like you are. It's not just a job. It's you. It's part of the essence of you. So I think, the first season, I don't regret that. I don't regret going to the office when my basement was flooding. I don't regret those things because I was building something that was important to me, but I also understand what it takes. And I think sometimes there's this confusion of work-life balance versus leaning in and building something real, and that you've got to walk the walk and it's got to be legitimate, right? Like you've got to do that. If you haven't lived it, how the heck are you going to bring it, to market in any way?
Yeah, but I actually disagree. I think you like you're saying, yes, you have to put in the work and you have to have that hustle and that drive to build it before
the work ethic.
Okay, the work ethic before you're able to set those hard boundaries and to take a step back, which is fair. But I think there's a mindset shift in the younger generation that they're not interested in that, killing themselves for 10 years to build this thing where they can, take a step back from, like, it's just from the get-go and from their natural set point is, listen, I don't care to do that, or I don't need to do that. I'm happy with less and to have an actual joyous life that's filled with things in harmony.
Sure. I think I agree. And I think some of them though do want that. And I think even people my age, there were people who wanted it, but didn't understand what it took. And then they were pissed off when they came in for a couple hours, left, chilled out, did nothing. And they're like, I can't go on the trip. I can't have the freedom. I don't have the retirement. Right. And they look at me and like, oh, well, why does she have it? I deserve to have that. Well,
no, you don't. Respectfully, you didn't work
respectfully, like you had the choice. And when we're on teams, we're accountable to each other. So it's like, I think the values, like I bought a cottage to make sure I had time carved out with my kids. And my kids joke to this day, be like, Mom kidnapped us and made us go to the cottage. But that's so I had family.
I understand because you now kidnap you to go to the cottage.
So you have that quality time, right? It's super important. But I think end of the day, you know, we're all community driven, we're family driven, we're team driven, and we can have boundaries. But for teams and businesses to run, we have to be accountable. If there's something important and we're like, I don't care, I'm checking out at 5 and that email has to go out, we're screwing over our entire team. So I think there's rest, there's off seasons, but there's also setting systems so you don't have fires falling apart all the time that you're just leaving other people to pick up. Like these things all, let me say it differently. You need to build your way to the freedom you want. Freedom requires structure. I've never seen anyone get the freedom they want without structure and systems and documentation. It's not sexy, but it gives you the freedom.
It's not sexy. Yeah. It's not sexy. I think there's also a part of that about, you know, people who come in and people are so interested in the quick fix or, you know, the shiny new thing that is going to catapult their business and their success. And without the consistency, without the systems, without like the, you know, very unsexy showing up, being the earliest one in the office and leaving the latest, like those things take time and that foundation needs to be set. And I think in an age where, you know, instant gratification is everything right now, it's so easy to look to like what is going to be the next thing. And it's not fun to hear like it's not sexy. You actually have to work. Like you have to put in the hours, you have to make sacrifices.
You have to get in alignment with yourself. You have to do healing. Like to grow requires all these things. But I think that with this conversation too, we've talked about like I work with Spencer, functional health expert. You know, you've had your words about that. But the reality is, it's true. I've seen so many people hustle, grind too far, right? They make their money. And then Spencer talks about that.
But you're one of them, right? Like this is
but I've always done the healing and done the exercise but I had a knee injury, right? It impacted me. And the reality is like, I'm not willing to be that person who grinds like my 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, and then goes, the money won't bring me my health back. And the reality is he works with I don't know, hundreds like of these people. He's like, it's the same story. You all think that you can outrun this story of like depleting your health to make your prosperity. Then your prosperity isn't enough, or maybe hopefully it is to get your health back. And that's why I'm investing so much earlier, because longevity, right?
Of course. Yeah. We grind and we work so hard to make all this money, and then we do it at the expense of our health. And then so we use all of the money that we've, you know, worked all this time for on vitamins. Like we have what would you say? I think we have an entire pantry.
There's phases of, do I have vitamin deficiency? Phase 1. Do I need to ramp up back into the fitness? And look what it's taken after an injury. Protect yourselves. It's taken me years to try to get back to before an injury. That was just a fluke injury. And then food.
Which injury. Like I think it's burnout. I think it's stress. I think it's being constantly in fight or flight, right? Hormones. Like and changing hormones, of course. And so it's not just the knee injury for you. It's like what would your advice be to somebody who, if you were to look back and say, what would I do differently, knowing now how difficult that burnout, that constant burnout on your body has been, and how much work you're doing now to try and reverse the effects of all of that stress, of all of that, you know, work, that hustle, that burnout. And you are one who is, you know, very clear about having this time off and carving out this time, but still at the end of the day, I think it's something that we all struggle with, right?
Yeah. I think, as leaders, again, we have to know ourselves, but we have to make a choice. Like, that's the reality. I had to choose. And it's like I say, that little hill, right? There's a metaphor for everything. Like right now I have to walk certain times, but there's a hill over the years that whether I'm not feeling good, I'm having a bad day, I run that friggin' hill. And if I stop midway, I've got to go back down and start again, because everything in life is a choice. Am I choosing to go towards what I want, or am I choosing where I'm at, which means I'm sliding back? And people want to say that's extreme, but I've worked with people 15 years, thousands, tens of thousands of people. It's not extreme. You're always making a choice, right? So for me, the choice was invest in this, get it back on track. And it's so uncomfortable, but I'm choosing it. And I'm working now even with a therapist to choose more and say, hey, where are my values even more? Where am I saying yes to things for the wrong reason? Because I'm at a new season in my life and I want to put down even more things so I can do my most important work. And I think that's fair. We have to ask ourselves, if you just grind, you're on that stupid hamster wheel. When you're on the hamster wheel, you are programmed not to ask the right questions. Ask yourself the right questions. What do you want? Where are you going? Why are you doing it? What do you want life to look like? Build the business to take you there. And everyone says they're doing it. You talk to them behind the scenes, they're not.
Oh, nobody is doing it. I think
some people are.
I know some people are, at a higher level, and people who are investing in themselves and their personal growth, people who are, and it's been interesting to watch you because, you had the knee injury. And so that was really difficult. And to watch you get back on track and to take it so seriously. I mean, everything that you do, you put your heart into. And so this is no different, despite the fact that this is just something that I make fun of you about because of all of this vitamin regime. And if I have to hear about your protein.
Vitamins, and I love a protein.
How much protein have you eaten today?
Not enough.
I know. Yeah. I know, because I haven't heard about how much protein.
I had protein coffee.
I know.
I can't endorse it, but I do.
Maybe one day we can.
I think the reality is leaders are trying to move from external validation to internal, right? We work with the inside out model. That's what we're trying to do. And I think end of the day, to avoid burnout, you have to know who you are. You have to know your values, have to be willing to live with it. And then you have to deal with the fact you're going to be in slim company, right? Like, that's the reality. But moving from external to internal is a big piece of this puzzle, right? You can find that harmony if you're listening to your own voice and you've done the healing to trust it, right? Then you find that harmony.
I think you also have to be brave enough to shift, because I think we're creatures of habit, and being a workaholic is something, and especially like our parents, I think, instilled it in our generation, like, this hard work ethic and like, lazy was like probably the worst thing that you could be called around my house. I come from a family of entrepreneurs. Yeah. It was just, this is how many hours a day people work. 20 hours a day. That's normal. So that was normalized in my house, and rest was not. And so I think being brave enough to realize that you are on that hamster wheel and that life can look a lot different if you make certain changes, and then actually taking that jump, taking a really hard look in the mirror, like, is this the life that I want? And if not, being brave enough to make the changes in order to have that life that you are trying to build, or that you thought you were going to build before you got on this hamster wheel.
Sure. And know what your prosperity is. My prosperity is freedom and contribution. That's my prosperity. It's not money. Like, I know you wish it would be more, but it's freedom and contribution. That's it. Like, get yourself out there on a mountain and test what you're made of, and you're going to come back and you're going to change some things in your life.
Okay, so there's a quote that says, I stopped chasing success and started designing freedom. And when we met, like, something that you were very clear on is designing. Yeah, you're always very clear on everything. But building a life by design, by our design, by taking a really clear look at what our values look like. So what does that look like? How has that shifted for you now? What is a life built by our design instead of chasing, the money? Or what does that freedom look like to you as we move forward?
Yeah. I mean, I think it's back to like doing the work I love. Like I remember, 20 years ago being in a room and being like, who wants to retire? And being shocked with half the room. Like, I never want to retire. And now, I mean, honestly, building businesses tired me a little bit. Then I'm like, wait,
Every night,
semi-retire. Yeah. Like maybe, but no, it's, and I hear this from a lot of like people I respect. Like I want to do more of what I love when I love it. But I also want to say like, you talked about being courageous. Like I meet people I respect so much. Like I've looked up to their careers and I can name a whole bunch and just be like, wow, like they really did it. And then I hear them talking about, well, I'm going to be semi-retired and now I could travel for 3 weeks. And it really made me reflect, like, I've traveled for 5 to 6 weeks a year for years now, sometimes twice. So for me, it's like there's a piece of me that's like, be grateful. Like you've built something a lot of people don't have. But then I remember that scarcity driven and we're carving something new. So I think for us, it's us being brave, right? Of not being in the scarcity of saying our business will be better at this stage if we lean in. So for me, it's living other places, experiencing other cultures, going on other adventures, because I feel most alive and I come back in my business when I'm seeing who I am outside of the business, right? So I think for me that's like, yeah, do more of what we love and not feel like I have to do it all. Like sometimes I just jump and I'm like, what the heck am I jumping for anymore? I don't need to,
Well, I think it's also important that you have that person, that sounding board, whether for us it's as partners, we keep each other in check on a lot of things it's very easy to get off track when you're trying to build this life by your design and trying to grow your businesses. And I think it's important that somebody else is your kind of accountability buddy partner. With respect to that, because when you're in it and when you're, in those on seasons that don't have like the potential not to shut off, like you need somebody to keep a watch and be like, hey, just a reminder to check in and say, do you remember what you're doing this for, what the goal was, what you committed to in terms of those off seasons, because burnout is so frequent. And I think especially for female entrepreneurs.
Yeah. If you're not getting clear on your vision and your dream, you will not be able to build the life you want. And it's the piece that 99.9% of leaders skip. They will say how much money they want to make. They will put goals for building their business, but I'll be like, where is it going? Where is it taking you? And it's like we have this fear, but that's what drives us to go where we want to go. And for female entrepreneurs, like in my experience, we hold, like not in my personal, but also supporting, we hold ourselves back so much. We underinvest in our businesses. We think it's safer to hold back. We play it safe. And I get it, because so many of us are doing 2 to 3 times more work before we even show up at our businesses. And I talk about this a lot on purpose in the industry, because we have to hear it, right? If we're doing more of the volunteering and childcare and management of the households and the schools and the healthcare and all these things, we actually have a privilege, and I'm going to flip it because I think it's important. We have a privilege to learn so deeply what leverage and multitasking is. And as women, like if you have to do so much more before you even get into the business, flex that. Use that skill in your business to leverage, because guess what? You are going to be leveraging more than most of your male counterparts, and you are going to be risking more, because if a one piece falls, it all falls. So find a way to go, how do I leverage this and have help and lean into that risk? And that's a different episode, but I did a lot to create security personally with my kids so that I could fully lean in and live this dream life.
And so what do you think it is? Because I do agree with you that as women, we're doing so much more before we get into the office, but I don't agree with you that, that gives us the experience to know how to leverage, because so many people aren't leveraging because, they're wearing it like a badge of honor. You see so often females being martyrs, like, oh, I have to, or, there's a piece of like,
some of the shady, I'm just going to say, some of the shadiest shit I've ever seen is women using their kids as excuses to make bad choices, to be out of integrity, to do things they shouldn't do. But some of the most beautiful things I've seen is parents and women saying, I'm going to live and lean in and do this because I'm setting the example, because I'm called to. And when my kids are called to, I want them to give themselves the freedom to do it. So I think it's really important I remember getting offered an opportunity in Manhattan to go and train. And people said, oh, you can't. What about the kids? And I thought about it. I was like, oh, like maybe I shouldn't. They said, no, because of the kids, I need to. Like, this is my dream. I've risked this. And when they have a chance or they take a risk, I want them to take it. So they had care.
Which is honestly completely bullshit, because if the tables were turned and you know, your male partner had this opportunity, nobody would be like, hey, but what are you doing with your kids? Right? Like,
no, they wouldn't. No.
That's, you know, that shaming of women who are driven, who show up, who say yes to opportunities that, you know, a lot of people wouldn't, just because I think of the perception, right? And or not being brave. But I think it's such a beautiful gift to give your kids, and you have given your kids, like your kids are very aware that they should show up and say yes to opportunities, that they should put themselves out there, that the sky is the limit, that, you know, work ethic will get you places. But they've also seen, you know, the flip side, and your forced fun, you know, kind of kidnapping them. And so I think they saw those seasons, that on season and off season. And,
But hey, like you need to own your own story. Audacious leadership is, I know my values, I live my values. And sure, we had off seasons and on seasons. And people definitely have tried to be like, oh, your mom works too much, she does this. But the reality is, I spend more quality time with my kids than any 9-to-5er I knew. Mm-hmm. That's the truth, right? Is our house chaotic when we're not on the off season? Yeah, but most 9-to-5 houses are chaotic too. So I think it's just know your truth and lean into what you're trying to do. That's how you live your best life. Truly, I believe.
Okay, so we see it, especially in the real estate industry. All of these people who are top producers, like high 6-figure, 7-figure earners, who are giving it all up in order to chase a different life. They're moving, you know, giving up their businesses, moving across the world, you know, living in huts in Costa Rica and just or Tulum. We see how many people have how many real estate agents have moved to Tulum right now. And we went there and we were like, yeah, we get it, right? Like, it's a hub of entrepreneurs who are valuing a different lifestyle, or understanding that it's not maybe worth it anymore. Also, it's cold in Canada, but we saw it in COVID, especially, I think. And that was like the catalyst, or for all of these entrepreneurs really like taking a step back and being like, what am I doing here? Like, how do we pivot? How can we create the life of our dreams in a place where we love living? Like, what does that look like? Right. And so, I know, like, we always talk about, like, what is our life going to look like? And you know, that's always been a dream of mine as well. Like, living somewhere else. Yes, somewhere else. Like, waking up on the beach, going surfing in the morning. Not to say that we wouldn't be working, because I think as entrepreneurs, you're always an entrepreneur. You're looking for the next thing. So if it wasn't real estate, we would find something else, right? But and for you, speaking and writing and doing things that set your soul on fire. And I think that's once you're with that entrepreneurial mindset, like, you're always thinking about, like, what is next, or what could we do next? How can we build it better? How can we grow? Or how can we pivot entirely? And so I think it's such a beautiful thing for these people to be setting this example to other entrepreneurs, that you can do it differently.
Yeah, I think, again, like, there's so many people I know, even when I was first, you know, in the coaching industry with leaders, and I was helping people achieve amazing things. And then they started to have heart attacks and strokes. People got cancer. Like, people were sick. People were burnt out to the degree. Like, at one point, I kind of joked at the time, but looking back, it was not funny. I'm like, I have a whole roster of, like, high profile, powerful women leaders who are all knitting and gardening by prescription right now. Like, that was medicine prescribed, because the burnout was just everywhere. And that's where I reflected. I was like, yeah, no, no, I didn't get in to help. Like, no way. And that's
So
where
you
I
can't knit.
shifted. I can't knit and I'm not patient enough to garden yet. One day, maybe, then I can aspire. But no, the reality is that like I shifted my business entirely because I'm like, this is not what I'm going for. And I just keep seeing it more, but it's the power of a pause. Right? We're so scared to pause. And I think as leaders, we're scared to have our people pause. They're like, where are they going to do? What are they going to do? And over the years, like I'm in that business. So it's like people come through our container of a business and they make major life changes. And they're like, are you scared? And they're like, no, that's part of what we do. So if people come in and they make changes, but I think the reality is sometimes we get so disassociated with our business, with our bodies, with our lives that we forget what we loved about the business. I don't think it's that we hate sales or mortgage or insurance or whatever we're doing or being a big CEO. I think we've lost track of the purpose and the joy in it, right? So we go to Tulum searching for that joy. I go to the Camino. I go for a month across Spain searching for peace and joy. And it's a step. But does it fully get you there? No. Like I still have to go back.
It does, though. It's a good reset.
It gives you the break
right?
to look.
Yeah.
The break to look.
Yeah. The space to be with your thoughts.
Yeah, of course.
To, get back into alignment when you come back, a bird's eye view of what's going on in your life. And I think same thing, like we come back from these long trips and you're rejuvenated. You're ready to look at your business with a new lens and a new perspective, ready to make changes. And it opens up tremendous opportunities for growth by allowing yourself to take a step back.
Sure. But what I'm saying is you have to look at it as a leader. Are you going towards the change you want? Or are you running away from the change you need? These are very different things.
But can it be both? Because when we leave, I'm like, I'm so burnt out.
Yeah,
I'm going to die. Like we need to like crawl onto the airplane. Yeah. And when I come back, I'm like, oh, I have clarity. I have a new perspective. So I think it can be both. I think if you're in a position where you are completely burnt out and, it's beneficial, even if you don't know what you're searching for, you might still find it.
But think about it. We're burnt out. You get burnt out. We go on the plane. We get there. We exercise. We're in the sunshine. We do holistic things. We go in Temzakal. We do things to rejuvenate our soul. We get aligned. We get clear. And then we have a choice again. Are we going to get on the plane? Are we going to go home? And now we're going to live out what we lived out before until we're burnt out. And then we go back, we go to Temzakal and we do breath work and we do meditation and we pay all this money to do all the, even though I like it more authentic, but that's fine. You pay all this money to do all this stuff, right? And then we go back again. That's running from the choice we don't want to make versus making that. We get the clarity. I fully agree. We get the clarity, but both of us
get back on the hamster wheel as soon as we get back.
We get back and I'll make even me, like I'll look back and be like, yeah, I made some of the changes, but the clarity I had, I could have made more. And why didn't I? And that's like the season I'm in of like, have the hard conversation, make the changes, be in the value, because if not, the universe will do it for you. And that's way more harsh. Right. So I think that's an important one I reflect on a lot. Am I running from or am I walking
towards?
I think the reason that, for me, like I love working with leaders and helping them build freedom is because for me, realizing that was the game changer for me. I got to a point where I had everything I wanted except freedom. And I couldn't. So I had to rebuild differently. So I think for me, it's like there's a lot of criticism now of burnout, people saying it's not burnout, you've lost your passion. There is physical burnout. And I think the reality is we have the option and as leaders to insist upon a life and a business and systems and structure that give us freedom. And I'm at the point now where I can say very clearly, I'm not willing to do any of this without freedom. I am not. Like I tap me out. Like I love what I do, but if I could not have freedom, I'm not willing to do it anymore. And that gives me a massive edge because I'm willing to walk, right? You got to be willing to walk.